All right, folks. It's that time again. It's the Believe It or Not segment coming back for a second week. Is it a third week? It's a third week already, ladies and gentlemen. But it's a very simple concept. In the Believe It or Not segment, we will say a statement, and then the panel has to say if they believe this statement or if they do not believe the statement. So we're cheating a little bit and using Ripley's, but the concept is simple, and I will start with the first statement. Believe it or not, Alex and Justin, the Habs are better tanking than trying to salvage this season. Obviously, with the 0-5 start here, that's where we're headed. And is this a believe for you? Starting with you, Justin.
Honestly, it's probably always better to tank for any team in the league. Like if it's a deep draft, which it is in this case. Like Shane Wright is supposed to be sick, and there's like a lot of names in the top 10 projected draft picks that are supposed to be really good players. So, I mean, it's honestly always a good move to tank. You're going to get a really good player in the draft, and you're going to be better off in the years to come. But obviously, as a fan, you don't want to see your team losing. So, I mean, I never want to see the Habs tank. So personally, I wouldn't ever want them to tank. I want them to always make the playoffs, always have an exciting season. And I mean, that's the most exciting time as a Habs fan, is when the Habs are in the playoffs. Habs are playing well, so I never want them to tank. Those years of like 2012, the year before we picked Alex Galchenyuk, and the year before we picked Jesperi Kotkaniemi, those were some dark times, and I don't want to go back to those. So they might be better off tanking, but I don't want them to.
So you do not believe it?
Yes.
Okay. Alex, do you believe it or not that the Habs should tank as opposed to try to salvage their season?
I do not believe it. And I'm going to go opposite of Justin here. Don't think it's good for a team to tank because you never know if your prospect's going to pan out. And we've seen it time and time again with teams like Buffalo, Edmonton, that once you build that losing culture, it's so hard to climb out of that and recover from that, even once you have good players. We've seen Buffalo with Eichel. Obviously, there's injury issues there, but you'd think that's a piece that you can build a very, very good contending team out of, and they've had no success. Edmonton starting to look a bit better, but still pieces like McDavid and Draisaitl, and still no success. So yeah, I don't think it's good for a team to tank, and I do not believe that Montreal should.
Let me just ask quickly, has there been a team that has truly tanked and like won a cup afterwards? I guess I'm thinking about it now. Sidney Crosby and the Pens.
Yeah,
that's like the best example of them. But other than them,
Chicago.
I guess Chicago. But they were kind of just terrible. They weren't really tanking.
You could say Tampa. You could say
Tampa as well.
Yeah, but yeah. Okay.
There's a lot.
So there's examples on both sides, I guess.
I mean, so yeah, this is where I just wanted to come in, is that to play devil's advocate, because I do agree to a certain extent. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to say, please come in and roast us in the comments. But point is that I agree that tanking endlessly is not good for a winning culture. You see it with Buffalo, you see it with Edmonton, like you said, Alex. What I will say is that a team like Montreal, I think, can benefit from a down year and getting a top draft pick. Now, do I want to see that from a fan perspective? No. But I do see the argument from a Montreal Canadiens fan perspective. I'm just resetting myself for this take here. My point is that if you get a Shane Wright on a down year where Carey Price is not with the team right now, there's too much turnover. Can you imagine? You know, I understand it from that perspective. Is that, can you imagine we get a Shane Wright in this roster, by next season, or whoever that top 10 pick, which is, I can go through a couple of names for those of you who want to hear them. But there's Simon Nemec. There's Brad Lambert, who apparently is Finnish. But Ivan Miroshnichenkov, terrible pronunciation. Danila Yurov, Matthew
Vanilla.
Savoie. Yeah, so there's a couple of names, Connor Geeky, which I've heard of as well. It's a deep draft. That's the point. So I can see that being a positive for a team like Montreal, which you know that there's a culture of veterans and winning that has been there and present. For the most part, that can influence these young guns, and having that influx of top end talent will help this team. So, that being said, I don't know what the real answer is here, but I want to say I do not believe it as well. But what do you guys think? And that leads us into statement 2, or believe it or not. Here we go.